Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be doing the ball joints on the front of my truck. It's been a long time coming. I'm starting to get a lot of play within my steering wheel, and I'm also starting to get some noise and stuff when I turn the wheel. So if you remember right, this side, the unit bearing has been changed, and I thought on the passenger side it was the hub or the unit bearing making all the noise, but in reality it wasn't. It is actually the ball joint is loose in there, so it's time to replace those. Everything spins pretty free as far as the bearings go. We'll check everything out. I'm really hoping that I did pull over far enough to be able to pull that axle out. What I'm going to do is I'll leave this nut on and just pull the whole axle assembly out. That way I don't have to retorque this nut. I've done it that way a couple of times, and then also I've also taken everything off and replaced the hub assembly also. So I'm hoping I'm got enough space in here to where I can pull that axle out, because the passenger side is the long side. This is the short side here, so when I take this side apart, of course there's plenty of room in there to get that off of there. So I'm gonna start taking things apart. To take those off, you do have to take your caliper off, take your caliper bracket off, and then you have your ball joint here with a nut on the bottom, and then you also have a nut on the bottom there, ball joint. And probably going to leave, I can take my steering and stuff off, because none of this is just a bolt going through here, since I have all the Heim joint front end from Carly suspension. So all I really need to do is take the nut off and the bolt out, and then drop the two arms down and do one side at a time. And then as far as that, that's everything that needs to come off. Sometimes you got to beat pretty good just to get the rotor off. If you can see, there's some rust around that edge that likes to fuse together in time. So you got on your caliper, you have a bolt here and a bolt down there to take off. Those are Torx. And then to take your caliper bracket off, you have a bolt top and bottom on those also, and those are a 12 point to take those off. And then just tie your caliper up in here someplace and get it out of the way. It's a good idea to put some wire or something on it just so it doesn't fall. With that being said, we'll go ahead and start taking things apart. And like I said, we're going to start on the passenger side, since that is the bad side. I did rent a ball joint press from AutoZone. All these tools that you guys don't have, they do have a rental tool rental tool program at like AutoZone, O'Reilly, Advanced Auto, and you just go in there and you make a deposit. Like this is a $204 deposit that I paid for this, but when I take the tool back, I'll get my $204 back. I don't have a ball joint press. I've done this about 3 times. So I guess I probably should own one, but I don't have one, so I went and rented one. We do have one at work, but work's about 20 minutes away, and I didn't feel like driving there and picking it up and coming back and getting started. So anyway, let's get started and tear things apart. So your caliper is a T47 Torx, and then your caliper bracket is a 5/8 12 point. I did bring over both my 3/8 and my 1/2 inch breaker bar, so I can get them broke loose and then take them out with my ratchet if I don't break them off. Now to take the bearing assembly out, there's 4 bolts, 2 on each side, here, here, and then same thing on the other side, on the top and on the bottom. And those are a 12 point also, and they are a 9/16. One thing that I'm going to try and do is the ABS sensor. Those are usually pretty hard to get out, so I'm going to try and get that out also, because I am leaving the axle attached. I may have enough room to take all the wire off, but I'm not going to have enough room to pull everything out and be able to take the axle all the way out. Alright, that takes just a little bit longer than what a person thinks. What I typically do is I'll use an extension with a socket on it. Preferably use a impact socket. I think I broke this one in transition. But what you do is you back your bolts out just enough to where they're just about 3 threads into your bearing itself, and then you just keep turning your wheel back and forth like that, and that'll help push that bearing out and gives you a little bit of mechanical advantage versus trying to beat it out. I mean, if you can look right here, this side I don't think has ever been apart, but you can see right up in here, I don't know if you can see that or not, where it actually bent that right there just a little bit, and then it was actually wearing on there pretty good. This area up in here is pretty strong, so it did not bend that, but yeah, it bent that mount for the upper link right there, which isn't going to hurt anything, but that just shows you the force it takes to get that out of there. Now I got to go through and take the castle nut off here, pull the cotter pin out, and take the castle nut off on the bottom and pull the cotter pin out. Take my steering apart, take this knuckle off, and then start pressing out the ball joints. I learned that trick from Rocky XTV. I always just took a hammer and beat the hell out of the knuckle, and I was watching him one day replace some, I think it was ball joints actually too, and you can see that, boy, that is just really wore out there. Anyway, I was watching him, he was replacing some ball joints, and I saw him take a hammer and put it against, and then take another hammer and smack it like that, and everything come apart pretty good. You just got to find that sweet spot on where to hit it at to get it to drop down. This one here is pretty wore, so there was no, it was already loose, didn't have to worry about hitting it. It's this bottom one here that was pretty loose. I'm sorry, it was pretty tight. So now I'll grab my ball joint press and we'll take this C-clip off of here, retaining ring off of there, sorry, and then be able to press this ball joint down and out. So I'm going to be replacing all of my ball joints with MOOG. Bottom ball joint is that part number right there, and then the top joint is that part number right there. I picked these up from Amazon. I've had them for quite a while, and I just have not had time to pick them up yet, or I'm sorry, to replace them yet, but I usually always use Moog. I did see guy I watch all the time, Paradox. Check his channel out. He does awesome work. Quite a bit more followers than I do. I'm just getting started out, but Paradox, he does pretty good work there. He found a company called EMF, and those are all 100% rebuildable joints. So you get the tools. If you buy the rebuild kit, you get the tools and everything you need to rebuild the joint. So once you press them in, you never have to take them out again, and they come apart in the joint, or I'm sorry, the ball joints come apart, I believe, without having to press them out and replace them that way. So they're a lifetime warranty from what I saw. I just already have these in my possession, so I'm gonna go ahead and use them instead of sending them back and ordering from EMF. But I would suggest that you guys check them out online. It's emf.com if I remember correctly, and also they have Instagram. Moog, you know, they're a great product too. I have no problem using theirs. It's just the only thing is theirs aren't rebuildable like the EMF is. So when these go bad, I'm gonna have to replace them if I even still own the truck. These are probably the factory ball joints that are on the truck, and they have, you know, 205,000 miles on them. So I'll never have to replace them again as far as I'm concerned. So, I mean, you can see right here how tight that is. That is very, very tight in comparison to this bottom one right here. You can see how loose that is, and the top one is not much better. So we'll get those pressed out of there with the ball joint press and get them replaced. So basically all you need to do is just find the right combination in the kit to get these off. In this case here, I'm going to use one of my impact sockets and press against it. They don't have the right size tube in there to be able to press this ball joint up and out. So I'm going to be using one of my sockets, hopefully. Maybe. It looks like it's just a little bit too long. So I'm gonna have to try and find something just a little bit shorter to go up in here and be able to press that out. Sometimes you can press against those, but a lot of times what happens is it comes apart. So we just need to find the right, I've already got it started using just this plate right here, pushing up against the bottom of the ball joint. But I don't have the right size to be able to push it the rest of the way up and out. So just need to find the right combination and get this pushed out of there so I can get the new ones in. Yeah, the kits from the store, you know, they don't have everything in them. They sell expansion kits when you buy one for yourself, and that's probably what I'm gonna do, is buy my own with the expansion kit in it. That way I can have everything, all the different tubes and just everything that I need to take this apart. This one here is the shortest one that I have in the kit. Nope, it's not. There's one right there that's just a little bit shorter than this one by about a ½ an inch. So we're gonna try that and see what works the best. So just got to have the right combination to get everything out. That still, with that socket, is still too tall. All right, basically what I did was, since I didn't have the right pieces and parts to get it apart, or the expansion pack to get it apart, is I took the C-clamp itself and drove the pin up and through the back side, because these aren't rebuildable, and that's crimped around the top edge. So what I did is I took this and I drove that up and through. That way I could put this flat cup on the bottom, and then I used my 1-inch socket and shallow well and laid it right there on top with the right chamber on top and the disc, and was able to push it up and out to get the top one out. Now I just got to turn our attention and take the bottom one out, and that goes out through the top. So we will be up and through just like that to take that one out. Okay, so before I realized it, my battery went dead, and I have no idea where it went dead until I started doing editing, to be honest with you. One thing I failed to mention was I always leave one side together. That way I always have a reference to go back from. It's pretty standard and straightforward on taking your caliper bracket off and your caliper. But like taking your ball joints out and stuff like that, if you've never done this before, it's just a good idea. Just like doing the old drum brakes. When you're doing drum brakes on some of your older vehicles, they do have drum brakes in the rear and disc in the front. If you're doing that, pull your drum off and leave one side together and then take the other side apart. So that way you can always reference back to that other side, and you could have basically a map to show you how to put it back together. Or in today's technology, take a picture of it with your phone before you take it apart. That way you have a reference. You can go back to your pictures and put things back together. But I do have the bearing back in there and the axle shaft back in there. Joints are in, top and bottom. This new joint here is greasable, and you can see that it brings a greaser right out to the side right there. So that's pretty nice. I do like that. I do lather everything up pretty good with NICs, especially on that unit bearing before I put our bearing hub, whatever you want to call it, before you put it back together. That way, if I do have to replace this one, I can't really tell if this one's been replaced before or not. I'm not certain. One thing I did notice when I started taking things apart that I didn't mention, I am missing a bolt in the bottom lower corner, so I do want to pick one of those up. They are a 12 point. I'm not certain what the thread and the pitch are on them, but they are a 12 point bolt. I'm going to have to go to my dealer to pick those up. I'm pretty sure it's a dealer item. So all I need to do is put my caliper bracket back on, put my caliper back on, and then the rotor before you put your caliper bracket on is very helpful. This is a comparison right here. This is my old one. You can see how just stupid loose it is. I mean, it was pretty bad. The top one, it is basically blown apart because I pulled the center section out of it and then pressed it up through. I just threw it out here in a stone. I'm not sure where the other pieces land. I think it might be laying under the truck under there someplace, but I've got crap laying every place. But anyway, I mean, this is a good comparison. You can't even hardly move them new ones without, you know, putting it in a vise or something like that. But I mean, just my finger, ever so slightly move it. So where we're sitting at with the back of the truck here, it is still not fixed. I turned it into my insurance to see what we could do because his insurance doesn't pay for aftermarket parts. I did find that out. So now I got to wait till tomorrow for my for my adjuster for my company to come look at it and basically tell me what they're going to do. What I'm hoping to do is I'm just going to turn it into my insurance, have them pay for it, but I do have a $500 deductible. Anyway, that's where I sit with that. So I guess with that being said, I am going to call it a wrap here and finish putting my truck back together. Another thing I ran into, sorry, I'm gonna go off on a tangent again. That was a pretty good kit, but I like the kit that I have at work. Basically, I kept having problems with the top ball joint pitching off to one side or the other. I couldn't get it square just because that kit is not doesn't have the expansion pack. My kit at work, it has basically the ball joint press and then a bunch of different cups and stuff like that. I couldn't find the right cup. I couldn't find the right combination to get that pressed in there and pressed in there square, and it kept pitching off to the side. So it did take me quite a while to get that that top ball joint back in place. So anyway, just thought I would give you a little bit of advice if you're going to go to your local auto parts store and rent one of those. See what they have, or run out to Harbor Freight. Harbor Freight does sell just the regular kit, but then you have to buy the expansion pack too. So anyway, guys, hit that like button, give me a thumbs up, be greatly appreciated. Support the channel. There is links in the description below for my logo wear, and also there's a couple of links in the description below for Hot Shot Secrets. I am a firm believer of them, and I have a bunch of products in there. From Diesel Extreme, Stiction Eliminator, Everyday Diesel, Winter Anti-Gel, and then I have 6 gallons of oil over there. That's their new oil in the gray containers. And actually, all 6 gallon is their new oil. It does, all 6 gallon has the FR3 in it, so that's the friction eliminator, so you do not have to buy that separate anymore. Check them out. There's links in the description below also for them. So anyway, guys, again, hit that like button, give me a thumbs up, and we will talk to you later on. And don't forget to subscribe. Bye-bye.